Team, welcome back. We are here today to assess our foot and ankle stability. I highly recommend you do the assessment of the mobility foot and ankle first so we get a good look and better understanding of the stability. Because if something's tighter, that can definitely affect the stability of it too. So we got to figure out, is it the mobility or is it the stability that maybe is causing this little bit of movement imbalance? Now, as we know from the mobility video, having healthy feet is incredibly important. Not just because we want our feet to feel good, okay, which we know if they're not feeling good, that definitely doesn't make us happy during the day. But as we talked about, our foot is the first thing to strike the ground, really when we're doing anything. So walking, running, any activity, our foot is either setting us up for success, setting that chain reaction of movement up for success, or setting it up for compensations, which over time can create some hip discomfort, back discomfort. The list goes on and on and on, knees especially. So to have healthy feet, we don't just need them to be mobile, but we need them to be strong and stable at the movements that they're supposed to be doing. And as we've talked about, when they're landing and pushing off, they're going through 3 planes of motion. They have a forward and back job to do, they have a side to side, they have a rotational job to do. And we're not gonna break it up into, this is what it's supposed to be doing when landing versus pushing off, but we are gonna go through all of the motions and just very simply, you're gonna identify, okay, what's strong, what's in control, and maybe what's weaker or more wobbly. And then whatever's a little bit weaker and more wobbly, you want to take these same exercises for simplicity purposes. And if you felt it was a little bit weaker in the rotational plane, the right foot going to the right, supinating, then that's a move that you can pick out from this video, practice a few times a week until you start to really feel like it's starting to take hold, and that becomes one of your strengths, that movement. And hopefully that starts to work into your walking and everything else more naturally. Now, if you're ever looking for more specific programs or more videos to build on this, okay, because we're going for identifying and then simplicity, taking these same exercises and doing them, you can always go to the Home Fit Plus app where there is a ton of free programming that you can continue to build your mobility and stability in your feet and a whole lot of other stuff for the rest of your body as well. Okay, so let's get started. Now, for the stability portion, we have a few options again, okay? If we're having a little bit of trouble balancing, because we do have to go to one foot, you can use a wall, you can use a table, you can use a toe tap. So we don't have to float. What you do have to make sure of, though, is that you're not over-favoring hanging on to something, and that's the reason why one foot's doing better than the other. So you have to be really in tune to how each foot moves and how it feels through the movements without getting too much help and realizing that it's the feet feel too similar because we're getting too much help from the objects, okay? So definitely can have a wall, table. I like the toe tap as long as you feel comfortable with the toe tap. If you feel very, very off balance, maybe keep working through the mobility video until you're ready for the stability video. Okay, so we're gonna start off right foot down and we're gonna start off in the forward and back plane. Now, we can add the toe tap, like I said. Ideally, if we can float it, that'll kind of give us some of the best look, okay? But only do this if you feel comfortable, all right? And you can tap as you lose your balance if needed, or kind of use the wall, make sure you're somewhere safe, use the table. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take my knee over my foot, and I want it to be nice and centered. I don't want it diving in, diving out. I want my weight nice and centered, and I'll give you a side view of this in a moment. And I'm just kind of seeing how we're doing with that. And then as I go to my left, I'm gonna compare, okay? And again, I'll give you the side view. And I'm just gonna create that dorsiflexion. And I'm just kind of saying, okay, do I feel balanced? Do I feel strong with that? Do they feel kind of equal? And they felt, for me, pretty equal for the most part. Now, we're gonna go ahead into the plantar flexion. So we're gonna go ahead and I can have a toe tap if I want, or I can use the wall or whatever it may be, and I'm just gonna come up and kind of push off the ground, kind of come up to the ball of my foot, and I'm saying, okay, do I have control over that motion? All right, and then we're gonna go to the other side here. Same thing, okay? This one is a little more challenging. And I have the toe tap there just to help me if I need it. And again, I could use the wall. So I would make a note, okay, left felt a little more challenging on that. But that pretty much covers the forward and back part. So now we have to look at the side to side. So as we know, we talked about in the mobility video, okay, one of the movements we're gonna create using our knees, because that creates a very indirect but direct, that's how we can create that movement in our feet, okay? So we're gonna go right knee leading this motion, and I'm gonna move it sideways to the inside. So I'm gonna move it sideways to the inside. So I'm here, I'm gonna move it to the left. Ideally, this is floating. And what I wanna feel is that arch maybe get a little closer to the ground, but what I really wanna feel is my heel kind of kick out to the right, and that forefoot kind of move to the right a little bit too. It's very subtle, but I wanna feel in control, okay? So I feel those movements and I feel in control. Now I'm gonna go to the left. Okay? And you're doing it right along with me. And now a couple keys, remember, ball of the foot, heel stays down, and then we don't want to roll the foot either, okay? So if this happens or this happens, that starts to create a bad read, so not ideal. So now we're gonna do the same plane of motion, that sideways plane, okay? But I'm gonna push to the outside. So now, when I push to the inside, okay, you can kind of see my heel moves to the right a little bit. So if this is a straight line, at neutral, when I go this way, you can see that my line kind of goes that way, right? My Achilles kind of creates a ramp that way. Now we're gonna go the opposite. So I'm gonna reach the knee out, and you should see my Achilles move in. So again, this is neutral. If I move out, sideways, that heel moves in, and that ramp is the opposite way, okay? So if I'm doing 2 feet, that's mobility. We need stability. So let's see how I do with my right foot, and then you as well. So we're gonna push that knee to the outside, and you should feel that heel come in, okay? That forefoot kind of comes in a little bit. The arch comes up a little bit. And then my right did okay on that. Now I'm gonna check out my left. And again, kind of going by feel. You can have somebody with you to kind of look to see if what you need to be occurring is occurring. If you lose your balance a little bit, just like I did, that's okay. You're kind of pushing thresholds a little bit, as long as you're in a very safe environment here. So again, have something to hold on to, so that way if you do lose your balance a little bit, you know, ideally you just step right down, okay? Or toe tap if you lose your balance, but you can always grab onto something. So I'm feeling that out. It's a little tougher for me on this side, but for the most part, pretty similar, okay? All right, so now one of the most important planes of motion, rotation, okay? So we're gonna look for pronating, okay? And I wanna be in control of that pronation. So what you're gonna see is I'm gonna turn my knee kind of down and in to create a direct impact on the foot, okay? And with that, again, ball of the foot, heel stays down. I'm not rolling the outside. So this is our motion. You see that arch get closer to the ground. I want to be able to get there and come back home, okay? So I don't want to get there like this, okay, and then come back home, and back home is all the way to the outside. I want to come right back to neutral, okay? And then I want to pronate back to neutral. So I'm going to be on one foot, or toe tapped, okay? I'm gonna twist in. I'm gonna squish that arch into the ground. My hips rotating a little bit with me too, that's okay. And I'm squishing, if there was a bug underneath my arch, I'm squishing it, and then I'm coming back home. And I feel pretty strong about that. Okay, I feel pretty good with that. So now I'm gonna go to the other side. Okay, left foot down. And I'm gonna do the same thing. Squish, come back home. What we don't wanna do is live there either. So I don't wanna squish, bring my knee back, but my foot's still squished, okay? I should be able to bring it there, come back home. Squish the bug, come back home. Okay, and I like that. I like both sides. You know, we're not gonna be perfect at them, especially their newer movements. You might wanna do these movements a few times to get a better reading. But now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to look to supinate, okay? So the other one in the rotational plane. So with this one, this arch is gonna come up. So ball of the foot and heel stays down, arch comes up. I'm gonna turn my knee to the outside of the foot, weight goes to the outside of the foot, okay? And outside of the knee a little bit. So I wanna be here, I'm gonna start. You can start with a toe tap and this hip's gonna turn to the right. So when the right foot's down, hip's gonna turn right. You can start with the toe tap and then work your way away from that toe tap. And I wanna show I can get there, hang there for a second, come back home. Get there, hang there for a second, come back home. Okay, not bad. Could get a little bit better. Let's see left foot now. So I'm left foot down, turning left. And I can I can work my knee to that left and I can kind of with my foot kind of purposely exaggerate that arch to come up a little bit too. And this one is definitely messier. You're seeing I'm having the toe tap. I'm having a harder time kind of owning it out at that end range and then bringing it back. So it kind of wants to come back a little too soon and I'm having a tough time kind of getting out there and being strong with it. So that one, out of any of them, is definitely what I have to work on more. So that supination of the left foot, okay? That supination happens when we're pushing off. And the reason why all of this is very important is when I push off, okay, I need to be strong in that supination because if I can control that motion, there's like 26 little bones in the feet. They all come together when we supinate and they create something very firm to push off of, which is what we want. If I can't get those to be strong in that position, that means they might only get to there, maybe partially create something sturdy. And if I've only partially created something sturdy, sometimes maybe the tissue in the bottom of my feet will have to kind of provide that sturdiness, and that has to work harder. And then I end up with maybe a little bit of plantar fasciitis, or it could be a number of things up the chain, okay? And same thing as we're stepping down, we want to show control over that motion. There's a lot of ground reaction force when we step down. All those little bones should spread out, and that helps dissipate that ground reaction force. And we want to be in control of that as well. So I know I have to work on that left foot supinating, okay? The motion's there, but it's not as strong as it should be. So we want both. So if the feet are happy feet, they need to be mobile, they need to be strong. So these past two videos are a very simple way of identifying and a simple way of kind of picking a couple exercises to get work on, to get work done and to improve. If you want something further, you can contact a coach through their Home Fit Plus app, or you have a lot of wonderful videos to help you continue to build on what you are learning, okay? Very good, team. Very proud of you. We're on to the next one.